A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You're welcome to this series on self-improvement, self-purification, or purification of the heart. My name is Muhammad Nuruddin Lemu. I'm a director for research and training at the Da'wah Institute of Nigeria, Islamic Education Trust. In this episode, we'll carry on where we stopped on one of the big impediments to our personal growth, our spiritual and ethical growth. And this is the impediment of just seeking acceptance, seeking approval of people, irrespective of their own qibla, direction, and purpose in life. In earlier episodes, we discussed the habit some people have of not caring, behaving like the mosquito that went round the room and back to its parents, very happy that people were clapping for it without realizing people were actually trying to kill him. This not knowing you have a problem and seeming to not care about it, or interpreting it as if it's okay not to know. What we sometimes would call the cool fool. Not knowing and not knowing you don't know, and not caring about not knowing. Now that doesn't really disturb you that you don't know. I don't know, I don't care. That type of attitude. The second problem we discussed was that of feeling you are better than others. This shaitan attitude of ana khairum minhu, I am better than him, as shaitan said to Allah when Allah said bow down to Adam. And many of us have this degree of feeling we are superior to others, more brilliant, more intelligent. If we were to mark our own exams, we know how they would be. We would always be better than we really are. But the problem there is where you want to outshine, you want to be seen, you unfortunately start to look down on others. The other problem we discussed was that of the dog and the bone. So unlike the one of seeking, being arrogant like the eagle, the dog and the bone was the dog that got a bone from its master, went to one corner to try and sit down and just enjoy himself, but on his way, he looked over the bridge and saw another dog with a bigger looking bone, and he jumped in and lost his own. Many of us lose the happiness of what Allah has given us because we look at what Allah gave others. We become envious, we become ungrateful, and we develop this very obnoxious attitude of not counting our blessings, always being depressed, always gossiping. Why? Because we seem to have a problem with Allah's wealth distribution system. Instead of looking at what you have and say thank you, look at your salary and say thank you. The moment you hear somebody has a better salary, you're grumbling about your own. The other problem we had, so we've got the problem of the mosquito, the problem of the eagle who is arrogant and showcasing brilliance, or the peacock if you might. We've got the problem of the dog and the bone, and we've got the problem of the crocodile. Defensive, never accepting mistakes, never accepting, theoretically accept, we are not perfect, we are all human, it is human to err, but the moment you tell them they are mistakes, the moment you try to correct them, they get defensive, they get angry, and they very often start getting aggressive. Not necessarily in the fighting sense of the term, but when you tell this person, you don't have a good sense of style, this is how you should dress. Instead of, maybe you're right, but that's how I prefer it, or that's what my wife likes, etc. It's, but you also don't have a good sense of style, but you also this, etc., etc. But everybody else, instead of looking and saying, where did I go wrong? And somebody tells you, you spoke rudely to somebody. I didn't speak rudely, he deserves it. There's always this defensiveness we have. And unfortunately, we take it to the workplace, we bring it home, we deal with our children in the same way, and it can be contagious. Your defensiveness makes others defensive, and it makes defensiveness a new norm. Your showcasing brilliance makes others want to also showcase when they have their own opportunity. This is very visible in children. When a child gets something and wants to show off to the others, the moment somebody gets something to show off, he also starts to show off. The other problem we looked at after the crocodile and defensiveness is the chameleon. seeking acceptance, wanting to blend in, just say yes and I'll follow you. A problem to do with very low self-esteem, very weak control of our ego, very small ego. As we said, ego can be too little. Of course, you can have overconfidence too much, but you can have ego in balance, moderated, managed by the conscience. In the last episode, we also touched on taking responsibility for your direction in life and not letting yourself be a product of the big pendulum that's influencing the other little clocks. That you are responsible, that you don't just manage your life, but you lead your life. Not the kind of lifestyle where others make the major choices of your career, of which religion you will belong to, whether you will eat or not eat this, etc. Many of us succumb to peer pressure and various things. We call them peer pressure, but it's really just seeking acceptance of our peers. And we discuss how this can be a form of seeking acceptance, a minor form of shirk. That's very dangerous, because instead of following guidance and following Allah on the straight path, you follow other fellow travelers irrespective of whether they are going in the direction you want to go or not. We all belong to Allah. We are all on a journey back to Allah. But we have to be careful who we follow. We see this in different scenarios. We see people who keep defending their forefathers. It's the culture, it's how we've always done things. That is just seeking acceptance of the past, of the dead. Whether they were right or wrong, and Allah criticizes this issue of what aba'ana, what our forefathers were doing, whether they were right or wrong. We need to think more independently, because you're the one who is going to stand before Allah on the day of judgment. You're the one who is going to answer the questions, not them. Nobody else is going to be your lawyer on the day of judgment. You will answer what you did with the gifts you were given. What did you do with your conscience? What did you do with your knowledge? What did you do with your choice and willpower? What did you do with the wisdom you were given? What did you do with the people put around you? Did you just follow them? Did you decide who to follow or not to follow? Did you reject everything? So while it's good to be an independent thinker, it's superior to be an interdependent thinker, where you do appreciate your limits and you consult, but you finally decide what you are going to do. The problem with compliance and just seeking acceptance is so many people have died because of just seeking acceptance. So many people in the armed forces have killed so many innocent people just because they were following orders. A lot of the big problems of the world are really because some terrible thing has become fashionable. In some place, hating this tribe has become fashionable, and we go with the flow, even if it's heading to a waterfall. And the same way, hatred of a particular group starts becoming contagious. It starts moving around, like COVID, within a community. You can call it racism, you can call it tribalism, you can call it Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, Christianophobia, whichever one it is. We need to be more independent and ask ourselves, is this what Allah expects of me? If not, the end of the journey of all the anti-Semitism and you just hate Jews because they are Jews, it ends in a Holocaust. Islamophobia ends in a Srebrenica, the Bosnian massacre, the second largest. And we have a lot of massacres that have taken places, genocides that have taken places by people who you wouldn't believe they will do these type of things. And what's most disturbing is when it's all over, whether it's Rwanda, whether it is something that happened in Boko Haram, wherever it is, once it's all over and you try to interview to find out what was it that made this person so susceptible, they were very ordinary people. You couldn't predict who's going to be an extremist, who's going to be a mass murderer. Very difficult. So this should caution us that if you can have whole populations of educated people just tagging along, complying with others, being influenced by others, fearing rejection, fearing being alone, even if it means being alone with your Creator. Just seeking acceptance of people in authority. This is very dangerous. Many of us seek acceptance of people in authority. Why? You're the boss, so anything the boss says, we go with. We seek acceptance of elders based on age, people with titles, people who wear uniforms, people who are wealthier. There are so many reasons why we just say we are more likely to say yes to some people than we are to others. We are more likely to say yes to people who are like us in a particular way or who show that they like us. We don't like saying no to our friends. And if your group of friends comes and say, the group of friends come and say, let's do this, the tendency is, oh, all right, let's go ahead. When somebody tells you, oh, you're very beautiful, you're very handsome, you instantly like the person. You think, oh, they must be, a very intelligent, sensible person. This person has a sense of taste. They know what beauty looks like. They said my eyes were beautiful. They said this was beautiful. And they influence us. They dupe us. Somebody just tells you that, oh, we are in the same association, we were in the same class in primary school, in secondary school, that because of that association, you're more likely going to say, okay, yes, let me help you, than how am I sure this is a genuine case? The moment somebody says they have a similar identity, oh, I come from the same village as you, we have the same religion, we pray in the same mosque, and we drop our critical thinking and are more likely going to say yes to people. Many of us have this ring of friends that behave like a magical, precious ring of the movie Lord of the Rings. Very interesting ring. And there's a character in the movie, Gollum, who views the ring as his precious. Everything is precious. Everything was about the ring. But that's exactly how many of us deal with our ring of friends, our circle of friends. We don't want to fall out, we don't want to lose them. If they start going on drugs, most likely we'll end up on drugs. If they start drinking, we will most likely end up drinking. If they start bullying somebody, we are either going to support or just be bystanders, but we will not stop them. Why? We don't want to fall out with even the devil, unfortunately, once we have become friends. We also don't like to fall out with people who have shown some goodness to us. Somebody sponsored your education, somebody gave you a gift, somebody gave you this. And we feel we must reciprocate in kind. We should also do something to please them. So we don't like to fall out with people who have done favors, even if that favor might have been done just to manipulate you. It's easy, unfortunately, for us to be lured by people we already like when they want us to do something wrong. We need to be more independent in our thinking. We need to really be more critical. And when we come back from the break, we will look at this attitude where many of us have of being very concerned about what everybody else is thinking, what everybody else is saying. Inshallah, when we come back. Assalamu alaikum.